Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the final session in our Energy, Careers, and Leadership webinar series. Our talk today is going to be with Tatiana Mitrova, Dr. Tatiana Mitrova, on adapting to change, building a resilient career in the energy sector amidst dynamic shifts. And we'll be seeing Tatiana in a few moments. But for now, just to remind you that the webinar series is brought to you by Energy and the Energy Coalition, and also co-presented by the Texas Industrial Energy Efficiency Program. And this webinar is being recorded. Next slide, please. I'm Alan Rossiter. I'm with Energy, Executive Director, External Relations and Educational Program Development. And I'd very much like to welcome you to our webinar for today. Next slide, please. Just like to remind you where we've come from so far in this series. We've had a great range of speakers, lots of different backgrounds and experience, starting with Ray Bonato from Google X, now known as X, talking about falling in love with the problem and lessons in moonshot taking, climate, and entrepreneurship. A very interesting presentation on entrepreneurship and his own journey. And we then had Don Victory, formerly with ExxonMobil as an upstream chief process engineer, but currently working with Energy Mentors, his nonprofit. And then Sharon Nolan from Eastman Chemical, dealing with the topic of from raising cows to removing carbon, her personal sustainability journey. And then Jane Stricker, who is based here in Houston at the Greater Houston Partnership, the Houston Energy Transition Institute, talking about her experience in navigating a successful career in a changing environment. And then last week, Sindhu Balan, an alum from here at University of Houston, but now with Chevron in their technology ventures area, again, looking at different career routes to the destination. Our talk today is going to be a very interesting one as well, a different perspective coming from Tatiana, and as I say, you'll be meeting her a bit later. Next slide, please. Just a quick reminder for those of you who are taking the certificate as part of this program, we will need you to complete the quiz within the next week in order for you to get credit for it. And the passing grade is 80% on each of the quizzes. So please be aware of that. The quiz should open in Canvas immediately after this webinar. Next slide, please. Just a little bit of etiquette for the webinar. Please stay muted with your video off unless you're actually speaking or are called upon to speak and present. And if you have any questions for our speaker, please put them in the chat and we'll be monitoring that. And depending on how things go, we'll either ask them at the time or wait until the end to discuss them with our speaker. Next slide, please. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today, Gerardo Angulo, and he is the Vice Chair of Student Affairs with the Energy Coalition. So, Gerardo, over to you.
Thank you so much, Alan. And yes, hi, friends. My name is Gerardo. I'm a Vice Chair of Student Affairs for the Energy Coalition. I'm an energy scholar with the University of Houston. I conduct research under Energy. I have my own radio show about Formula One. It's called Formula Kook, Thursdays 1 to 2 p.m. if you want to tune in. And I'm a political science BA student with a minor in energy and sustainability. Next slide, please. So what we do at the Energy Coalition, we encompass 8 different colleges, embody 34 different student organizations across a field of 30 different majors. That alone in itself makes us one of the largest student orgs at the University of Houston. We have over 4,000 registered students within our organization, alongside our relations with our other student orgs as well. And it is because of the Energy Coalition that we're able to bring you these types of continuing events. Next slide. So with that being said, I'd like to shine a light upon some of our upcoming events, specifically those 2 bullet points that are down there, the Hydrogen Symposium, which is April 17th, and the Energy Banquet, which is April 24th, my apologies. The Hydrogen Symposium is a massive day where we celebrate research within hydrogen, where you get to connect with other energy professionals and students who are conducting research of this sort. It's going to be an all-day event. It's from 8 to 5, and come in, and we are looking for volunteers as well, and more information on that will be shared in the next slide. And the Energy Banquet, that is our final event of the year, and it is a massive celebration of all of the things that UH Energy has done, of all of the things that the Energy Coalition has done. And with those two events, you'll also be networking with energy professionals, and you'll learn more about a career in the energy industry. Next slide, please. So we ask kindly for you to register as a volunteer for the Hydrogen Symposium, which that link has been dropped in chat just now by our friend Alan. And so there are 4 different tracks that we are going to be looking at in the Hydrogen Symposium. They're the technology side, the business side, the policy, regulation, and safety side, and the community engagement aspect. So for volunteers, please sign up using that QR code. Again, if you don't have a QR link that works, we also have it dropped in chat. And we ask kindly that you sign up, and you'll get official registration for that for the Hydrogen Symposium. Next slide, please. And one more time, please mark your calendars for the Energy Banquet. It is our final event of the year. It is our most important event, and it is our favorite event as well. And it is, as I was saying, a celebration for energy as a whole at the university, and it is sponsored by Phillips 66 and UH Energy as well. So using this QR code, you can sign up for that as well. And I believe that the link is also dropped in chat. So if that is something that interests any of y'all, please go ahead. And if you have any questions about these events, please do not hesitate to reach out at the end of the presentation or to contact us through our GroupMe or any of us officers personally. Next slide. And now I'll be introducing our speaker today. Her name is Dr. Tatiana Mitrova. She is speaking on adapting change and building a resilient career in the energy sector amidst dynamic shifts. Dr. Mitrova is a research fellow at the Center on Global Energy Policy at Columbia University School of International Public Affairs, and she's the founder and director at NEA, also known as the New Energy Advancement Hub. It is my honor to be able to introduce Dr. Tatiana, and with that, I'll be turning it over to you.
Thank you so much, Harada, for this kind introduction, and it's really great pleasure and honor for me to be here today with you, sharing my experience. And I'll try to convince you that adaptation is becoming now the key to your successful career. At least I will share my experience, how adaptation helped me. So why don't we move to the next slide? Yeah, here we are. And I suggest to go directly to the next slide. Yeah, thank you. So why do I think that I'm in a position to speak about this? Actually, I have already 30 years of experience in the global energy markets research, just recently named among world top 30 female energy market analysts. I have 20 years of experience in energy-related executive education as a lecturer, as professor, 10 years of board experience as independent director in the leading international public energy companies. And all this experience has shown to me that the only thing that is fixed in our lives is changes. And therefore, we need to be ready to adapt to these changes. In the energy sector in particular, these changes are occurring very, very fast. Can we move to the next slide? So this is a specific feature of the energy sector. Yeah. Next. Thanks. Energy sector really has a very dynamic nature. And there are always technological advancements taking place. There are innovations. They are in the heart of energy. You can name like hydraulic fracturing and horizontal drilling for oil and gas. You can think about renewables, hydrogen, smart grids, energy storage, and each innovation is reshaping the sector. In addition to these technological changes, there are regulatory changes, which are also sometimes quite profound. There are changing policies, which are influencing market trends and all our operational standards, like recently climate regulation, ESG regulation, all these goals for carbon emission reductions and supporting renewables. If you ask people who are working in the energy sector for more than 20 years, they will tell you that it's a completely different world with the different KPIs, with the different objectives structured in a different way. And there are obviously shifts in the global energy demand. Energy is the blood of the economy, and as the economy is transforming, energy demand is transforming as well, with the rising energy consumption in the global south, with the more and more energy going into the computing, yeah, which is also quite new, and so on. So we have to admit that these changes, they are not accidental. These are not black swans. This is not something extraordinary. It's the very nature of the energy sector itself, which means that our adaptability and resilience in this evolving landscape is absolutely the must. And next slide, please. I would say that if you look at my page in LinkedIn, yeah, or at the experience, you can see here something good looking. So Center on Global Energy Policy at Columbia University, and this NEA, which is Energy Advancement Hub. It's an e-learning startup focused on popularization of the new energy technologies. I'm also independent director at Schlumberger and SLB these days. Visiting professor at Sciences Po and in Paris, and senior research fellow at the Oxford Institute for Energy Studies. So it looks like a very solid career, well planned and quite stable. So it looks good. Why am I talking about adaptation? Where adaptation lies here? Let's move to the next page, which is also a screenshot from my LinkedIn. Next one. Yeah. And this is what was before that. I was independent director in the Russian gas producer Novatek. I was director of the Energy Center at Moscow School of Management, Skolkovo, and before that, I've been working for the Energy Research Institute of the Russian Academy of Sciences. So you see that there is quite a dramatic shift from national career to the international. From hydrocarbons, I was head of oil and gas department, to the green energy advancement hub. From research, historically, my background is in very academic research. Yeah, all these economic modeling and very traditional research activities, to more of a management, executive management, and dissemination stuff, which is, believe me, quite a big transformation. And the reasons why I've gone through these transformations and the way how I've arranged these transformations, this is something I want to share with you. Next slide, please. I also want to share a little bit of personal perspective. Yeah, because our job is on the part of our life, and we are all trying to achieve some sort of work-life balance. And I would say, frankly, that I'm a person probably less appropriate for any of these positions. I have a character actually unsuitable for a normal career. I'm an introversion. I hate working in any office, and I haven't been working in the offices for my whole life. I'm always working remotely. This is my principal position. I'm a single mom. Yeah, so the period when I was building all my career, my kids were quite small, as you can see on this photo. So I needed to devote a lot of time to my children. And moreover, the peculiarity of the character is that I'm getting quite quickly, I'm getting bored by anything. It's difficult for me to do only one thing. Yeah, I'm always looking for something different, and there is this necessity of constant change in the types of activities, including very strong need to travel. So I'm joking that I have nomadic gen because I cannot sit in one location for more than 2 weeks. Then I'm feeling really bad and distracted. So looking at this profile, any normal HR director would tell you, I mean, don't hire this person because it will not work properly. And with this starting position, yeah, I've tried to make the career. And here, my message to you would be quite simple. Don't be afraid if you are not like normal. Yeah, if you have some differences compared to the others, it's okay. You can always find the way how to fit, how to define the career path that will be really fitted for you personally. Next slide, please. In addition to these personal characters things, I had actually quite a poor starting point from the, let's say, social perspective. So I started my career in the early 2000s as an oil and gas academic researcher, which normally means not a big career. I started to work actually when I was 30 years old. Before that, I was a housewife with no experience and, frankly, lost socialization skills. I was sitting at home with two small kids. I was even afraid to call anybody. Not even thinking about any job interview or any discussion. You know, it was too frightening for me. And obviously, when I started to work after my divorce, I had to work 24/7. Yeah, there was a lot of stress and there was quite strong financial pressure because I was the only person to earn money in my family. In addition to these personal circumstances, there were like external factors. Yeah, I was working in the post-Soviet space, which is well known for its gender and age discrimination. It was quite frequent that at some work meetings, people were asking me, like, "Lady, please bring me coffee," though I was their counterparty. And there is a very strict hierarchy, and there are all these barriers for advancement. So obviously, it was not an easy stuff. And also, don't forget about politics. I mean, my political stance was always radically divergent from the official one in Russia. So it was quite challenging to build any relationship when you are working in a highly centralized and state dominated market. Where actually the key players are state controlled companies and you have a different political position. But it's not only Russia, I would say. So I've started to work abroad in 2008 in Oxford Institute for Energy Studies. It was my first experience, and even then, I was experiencing all these challenges related to the fact that I have Russian passport. You can imagine what happened after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Yeah, it became really very difficult to communicate. All the banks hated me. And it was when you have a passport from a an aggressor country, sanctioned aggressor country, it's definitely not helping your career. So with all these problems, the solution that I found, and which I strongly recommend all of you to think about, it was a so-called portfolio career approach. When you understand that you are not actually ideally fit to the expectations of the employees, and when you understand that your position can be challenged at any certain moment and everything is changing so fast, it's better not to put all the eggs in one basket. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah, thank you. So here I'm just using ChatGPT, because I also have to learn all the time. Yeah, and by the way, it's a very useful tool. I enjoy working with it. What is a portfolio career approach? Yeah, I will not read all these ChatGPT generated text. I think you can do it yourself. But basically, it's about combinations. You are combining different careers within one big career. So it means that you can have some part-time jobs, participating in different projects, consultancy, teaching, yeah, some side entrepreneurial ventures, some voluntary work. And when you put together all these pieces of puzzle, yeah, sometimes it looks destructive. Sometimes it's really difficult to manage all of them. I never have less than 10, 12 projects ongoing simultaneously, which is a bit of a mess. But at the same time, it is providing much bigger resilience. And you are not dependent on one single project or on one single employer. You have this flexibility, and that is basically which helped me a lot during the last years. When I was feeling that current position is no longer, like the main position is no longer satisfying me, it was very easy to switch to something else. And it was really each of these positions was adding something new, both in my knowledge and vision, but also in my visibility. So it was when you're working in 10 projects, obviously your network is 10 times bigger than when you are working just in one project. When you are engaged in different freelance and voluntary activities, you meet much more people and they get to know you. And you start to build your contacts, which might help you decades later. You never know how it turns out, but it really works this way. Next slide, please. So here, I would say, for me, it is the most important slide. So I will stay here a bit longer. It's about navigating uncertainties in the energy sector. I hope that I've managed to convince you that uncertainty, it's not something bad. It's not something unexpected. It's just the very nature of the energy sector. And I would say even more, it's the nature of life. You never know what will happen next month, next year, next day. And it's wonderful actually, because otherwise it will be extremely boring. But sometimes there are unpleasant surprises, and it's also part of our lives, and we have to be prepared. Because when you build some perfect picture in your mind, then you always feel distracted if something goes wrong. If you accept that uncertainties and unpleasant surprises are part of life, then you are much better prepared for them. So changes are inevitable, whether you expect them or not. Yeah, suffering is optional, obviously, as psychologists say. So the most risky strategy is actually to ignore these changes and to do nothing. In this case, you will definitely lose. Any meaningful action actually increases the chances of success. With no action, the chance of failure is 100%. Yeah. Therefore, it's very important to develop and regularly review your career plan to make this reassessment. Okay, the environment has changed, so what should I do next? Yeah, never get relaxed in this respect. Moreover, with an average life expectancy of 90 years, all of you, still have like 60, 70 years of active life ahead. This is an equivalent to 2 or 3 careers in the old times. So it means that we are doomed to changes and to lifelong learning. Everything around us will change dramatically in the next 60, 70 years. Just look back how much it has changed during the previous 20 years. Yeah, so it's 100% probability. Yeah, what to do? Just make it fun. It's stupid to be afraid of this. It's foolish to waste your life on something that you don't like. Just choose what interests you and study it. I would say from all my experience and experience of hundreds and thousands, I would even say, of my students, interest and joy are the best indicators of where to go and what to do. Something seems to be interesting, just jump in and try. There is time to try and to make mistakes. Don't be afraid of mistakes. I've personally made an enormous number of mistakes during my life, but if you switch a little bit your approach, if you regard them not as failures, but as in startups, testing hypotheses, then it provides you much better and much more optimistic perspective. Okay, it failed here, here, and here. It means that these 3 hypotheses are not working. It means that next hypothesis will likely be more successful. Yeah, and try yourself in different fields, in various areas. Again, as my experience shows, not a single skill, no matter how odd it could be, I mean, graphic design, programming, sales, whatever you name it, it all ends up being really useful at the end. And the last thing which I've learned that I mentioned it already, that all the career, all your work, it's all about people. Even if you are a cabinet analyst sitting with your Excel spreadsheets, actually, it's at the end of the day, your success depends on how good you can communicate the results of your research, how good you can communicate with the other people. Because any job that we are doing, it is for the others, not for ourselves. So we need to build these skills. We need to develop our professional network. We need to connect with the experienced professionals. And I would say mentorship can offer invaluable insights and open doors to new opportunities. So even such an introvert as myself, I've mentioned, is the feature of my character. I was born like this, but even I understand that it's extremely important. It's probably the most critical part of your career, just to build relationship with the people. And it's also a lot of fun. It's another very interesting conclusion to which I came up. The best projects, the most inspiring achievements, basically the best things in my work, they were all related to the people I like. So working with the people you like, it's really extremely rewarding and extremely useful for the work itself. Then the results are much better. But now I would like to jump very quickly through some more formal stuff. Yeah, I'm a lecturer. I have to do it. Sorry. So next slide. Yeah. So here I would like just to show 4 components of the successful journey. And it's not only my personal experience. Once again, I have connections with a very big number of people in the energy sector. I've been teaching them, I've been working with them. So I see what works. And there is also some methodological base behind this. First of all, obviously, your knowledge and hard skills. It is absolutely critical. If you do not know this stuff, you're useless. Yeah, so here it's what specifically is needed in the energy sector these days. It's a systemic approach. Because there are so many new areas like sustainability, climate, so many new technologies, all these evolving regulations and the finance angle. In order to be successful in studying it, try to build your own system. Otherwise, these pieces will not match together. Lifelong learning, I've mentioned it, just don't try to avoid it. You have already quite a good, you've achieved a good speed of learning in your university. After graduation, just keep the same speed. And baby steps. It's very simple. If you might take small courses after you graduated, you might go to some webinars or workshops from time to time. You do not need to immediately jump into the next MBA program or something really huge. Just doing the stuff is already useful. Next slide. Yeah, the second component, and I hope I was convincing enough describing them, it is soft skills. Yeah, so critical thinking, especially now, especially in the energy domain where you can hear a lot of contradictory statements and messages. You need to think on your own. And yeah, fact checking, problem solving, they are extremely important. Writing, I will spend a bit more time on that later. Emotional resilience and adaptability, because as I said, the circumstances might change very quickly. And you can see a lot of people, they have to change their jobs, they have to adapt to the new reality. Just think about COVID, think about all the geopolitical disasters that we are observing right now. Those who survive are the most emotionally resilient and adaptive. You remember adaptation, yeah, it's modification of an organism that makes it more fit for existence under the conditions of the environment. Environment is changing, we have to change as well. It's normal, it's the way how our civilization evolved. And also effective teamwork, conflict management, negotiations, sales, for everybody, including researchers, including analysts. Sales is the skill needed to anyone in this world. Next one. Third pillar, as I said, is networking and outreach. Why is it so important? Because people have to know what you are doing. Connections, networking, personal brand, your activities in social media, you need to be visible. Otherwise, nobody will know what a wonderful stuff you are doing. Yeah, you've written a research, nobody has learned, nobody has read it. You developed a new technology, nobody will buy it. Yeah, you are proposing some innovation in management, and again, nobody will accept it because they simply are not aware of it. So all these outreach, it's not about promoting yourself. It's about promoting the stuff you are doing, which is more important. And next, please. Yeah, this is also very important, last but not least component. It's about clear personal strategic vision and persistence in everyday action. So you need to know where you are moving. The question I'm asking all my mentees is, What do you imagine? What do you wish you could be in 5 years, in 10 years? If there are no constraints, if you can achieve whatever you want, what would it be? And this thinking out of the box, you can imagine when I found myself 30 years old as a single mom of two small kids without money, without any experience. Yeah, it was very difficult to imagine that I could become one of the leading energy analysts, but that was my vision. And then everything I was doing, it was in line with this vision. And as you see, it worked out. So when you have vision, you can convince the others. You can focus, you can allocate the resources. And here comes this persistence in everyday action. It's insufficient just to declare, I want to be a CEO of the biggest energy company. Yeah? You need to act. And those actions, they do not need to be heroic. Yeah. But if you spend every day just 1 hour focusing on this, just on one target, you will see that actually they are moving ahead very, very quickly. It's, again, for me, it's probably the biggest discovery of my life, how important these daily steps are. And I think, yeah, the next slide, it is actually just summing up this whole strategy development plan. I'm sure that you guys know this sequence of actions. Yeah, it's the way how you develop a corporate strategy normally. So just apply the same template to your personal strategy, vision and targets, SWOT analysis. So when you are assessing your strength, weakness, and resources available, then you define your niche. Yeah, and it's very important in this very, very diverse energy landscape to be focused. Yeah, you need your own niche where you want to be the best. Discover your preferred way to make your voice matter. Yeah, so it's not only about you, it's also about the others. Develop your detailed implementation plan, and very important, measure and track your progress. I make such strategic sessions basically once in 3-4 weeks. I'm just sitting and thinking, okay, where I am moving, what could I do in a different way? If it doesn't work, maybe there are other ways to achieve the same target. And how much have I advanced? And continuous learning. Yeah, this is probably the most important thing. So the final slide. Yep. Yeah, it's a kind of conclusion. This is your one and only unique life. So try to get as much fun and joy as possible. Don't be afraid to experiment. If something doesn't work, just change it. And probably the most important message that I want to convey is that success comes to those who are ready to hack the system, who are ready to think out of the box, who are ready to impose their requirements, their own rules on the system. And then, surprise, surprise, somehow it is working. If you believe it, then the others start to share your vision. So I'll stop on that. I'm ready to answer your questions. You were extremely silent.
Yeah, yes, I see no questions in the chat. I do see one comment, which I absolutely agree with. Great message. Thanks for sharing. So while other people are thinking about specific questions, I do have a couple of themes I'd like to maybe raise with you, and maybe you can make some comments. And this goes back to actually the beginning of your talk there. So you mentioned that you started out in research, and you're really now more in a sort of management role, and also clearly an instructor role. Do you have any thoughts about the types of work and the way you handle them in those areas, and the sort of transition from one to the other? Any thoughts about that, or is that too vague and abstract?
In research, actually, I started these managerial activities in the research domain because quite quickly. So I've spent maybe 3-4 years working on my own as a single researcher with my own subject and everything. And then I realized that if I want to develop a global gas model, I need other people to help me. So my team became 3 people, then 5 people. So it was growing and growing and growing. And I also started to struggle with all these delegating and controlling stuff. Yeah, so for many researchers, it's easier to do it yourself than to explain the others how it should be done.
I know the feeling.
So I've spent some time struggling with that, but then I've realized that actually trusting people and having this ability to rely on them actually encourages them to grow very quickly.
Right.
And the team was growing, and indeed, though I love research and analysis, just seating myself in my cabinet with the numbers and all this stuff, but I've realized that it's more efficient if I spend less time with that, but more time in training my people, in finding the contracts, in fundraising. Yeah, so the stuff which has nothing to do with the research itself, but it is absolutely necessary if I really want to have all these models done at the end of the day. So it was a slow process. And then also working with the company. So I started consulting activities quite quickly because I had to find money to pay for the team. So with this consultancy, I also saw that actually companies in many cases, they have very tunnel vision and they need also this out of the box perspective. So challenging some of their strategy decisions and suggesting new twists, new approaches, I quite quickly ended up in the strategy consultancy, which is also about the organizational structure and all the management stuff. And it happened also rather quickly that I was invited to join the first board. It was E.ON, electricity utility, Europe-based. So being an independent director is also a sort of internal consultancy, which forces you to look at the whole corporate organism, how to make the whole company more adaptive, how to make it more resilient. So it was a lot of learning by doing. It was a lot of learning. Obviously, I was taking many courses and additional education to get better understanding of all this executive management stuff. And I think it's actually a good combo to know the industry itself and all these hard skills, but also to understand the managerial stuff as well.
Corporate structures and obviously a lot of relationship stuff involved in that as well. So it's a transition from really just being focused entirely on the hardcore research and seeing the bigger picture, right?
Absolutely. And it is also extremely interesting. So as
Sure.
I said, for me, interest is the best indicator that I'm moving in the right direction. So it was interesting. It means I was moving in the right direction.
Very good, very good. Yeah. So seeing a few more questions here, and they're sort of related to this. Gerardo, were there any there that you thought were particularly interesting?
I thought that there was a lot of things that were interesting, very specifically kind of watching how you grew from this kind of how do I say it? Like I guess how you came, I don't want to say exactly from the bottom, but how much you fought to come up, how much you fought to come out on top of the industry. And I'm very honored to be able to hear you speak because of that. I think it's something that you don't really see a lot. I feel like the energy industry, especially from what I've seen, is something that comes almost in a line of succession. And I think it's fascinating to see how you came out on top after having struggled for such a long time. That's something that I found to be fascinating.
Thank you. really appreciate this feedback. You know, in the process, I never felt myself fighting. Yeah, as I said, for me, there was this huge reward that I was doing something that was of enormous interest for me. So it was, so I was not sleeping at night writing a research, for example, but it was interesting research, and I was really enthusiastic about finalizing it. So I got tired, I got exhausted, that's for sure. I didn't sleep well for like 20 years, but at the same time, it was so interesting. So this is my main reward. And I was never, frankly, planning any, career. Yeah, so it was not about getting top position. Yeah, it was more about having influence, being heard, yeah, making a difference, making an impact.
Good. So just looking through some of the other questions in the chat here from Ryan, what are some examples of the portfolio career positions that you would advise for those at the beginning of their career? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, this is something I suggest to all of my mentees and students. So, first of all, while you study, it's really good thing to participate in different projects on voluntarily basis. So just get engaged. It could be research, it could be like conferences or any pilot projects on the ground, whatever you find related to your industry, which is of interest to you, even if they are not paying, yeah, and you can earn more being a waiter in the cafe. Anyway, it makes more sense to focus on your skill development and testing yourself in different roles, in different companies, in different organizations. It will pay back much faster. It's, it's a sort of marshmallow test. Yeah, but I think it's important to make the right choice here. Don't be too greedy with your time. Yeah, you can hang out, or you can spend the same time just writing an article. And it might not be peer-reviewed journal. It could be an article in LinkedIn, which doesn't require actually more than several hours. But this investment in your visibility, again, it pays back much faster. Any internships that you can find, shadowing, also very good stuff. You can start as a teaching assistant. Yeah, you can test yourself in different positions. Yeah, these will not be top positions, but at least you will understand how exactly this or that organization is working. And there are lots of projects ongoing where people are actually looking for some support. Just don't be shy, ask about it. So as an example, when I was starting, I was lecturing in 3 universities. I was working in the Energy Research Institute, which was my main job. I was writing for several journals. Yeah, and they were even paying honorariums. I was engaged in consultancy. Yeah, so several consultancy projects where bigger organizations were inviting me as a freelancer. Yeah, and I was also helping my friends in a couple of big energy companies with their business plan development and strategy development and so on. So it's a combination. It's a lot of work, obviously,
Right.
but I think it's a very good training. You learn a lot.
Well, you've done an awful lot. And this actually leads to another question here that Radhika asks here. You mentioned that you had 2 young kids when you started working and you get bored easily and you need to travel frequently. How did you balance all of that? And I would say also with all of those different jobs you're trying to do, and how can you stay sane while doing all of that?
I wasn't that sane. So as I said, I wasn't sleeping enough. Yeah, so my best working hours were starting from 10 p.m. when kids were going to bed.
Wow.
Sometimes I was waking up very early, like 4 a.m., and just finishing a presentation or research. I had a babysitter who was helping me. And when I started, it is very funny. So my first salary, I paid the whole salary to the babysitter.
Wow.
I mean, the whole amount, everything I've earned went directly to the babysitter for 1 month. The second month, I've already earned more. So there were extra money for life. Year later, I was already earning like 5 times more. And the babysitter was earning the same amount of money, obviously. Yeah. So the value added was very visible. In addition to that, I've tried always to get my kids engaged, not just by sitting together with them in my book or iPhone or whatever. Yeah, the quality of the communication for me seems to be much more important than the quantity of this communication. So therefore, I was always trying to organize some sort of adventures. And even if it would be like 15 minutes at home in the evening when I came after all my meetings and they came from their kindergarten and babysitter was with them. Yeah, these 15 minutes, it will be 100% focus on each other. So we will talk about the things that really matter for them. I knew all the dinosaurs, all the computer games and everything about hobbits. Yeah, because this was something of interest. They wanted to discuss it, and there I was pretty serious. I studied it, and we were discussing it together. Traveling. I made an arrangement in the school. They've allowed me. I've engaged all my negotiating skills to convince them that my kids will definitely do all the homework. So they've allowed me to take them for different trips, and we were traveling a lot. And even, I was going, for example, to the World Gas Congress in Argentina, taking my kids with me. They were 11 and 7 years old. That was a challenge not only for me, but for them as well.
Sure.
But it was also bringing to them such a huge new perspective. They saw penguins, yeah, they saw Buenos Aires. So it was, so I think these joint trips and this quality communication, that is something that helped a lot.
No, that's phenomenal. So yeah, very creative and making the best use of the time you have. Although I have to say, I'm not sure that I recommend, limiting your sleep. That's probably not a healthy thing.
I agree. So now looking back, now being like 50 years old, I understand that that was not helpful. I have to pay for it now with my health. So definitely, guys, don't try to repeat it. I'm sure you are smart. You can find the other ways how to do it. And you have fora. I started when I was 30. You are younger.
Yeah, but certainly you're obviously very good at, well, multitasking is probably not the right word. Yeah, I don't think anyone actually multitasks well, but actually managing your work so that you can handle a lot of different things.
Alan, here is another life hack which I want to share, because normally I have an endless to-do list. Yeah, and
right.
if I was just trying to tick all the boxes, I would go crazy. Yeah, the only thing that helps is strategy and prioritization. So spending time, it's better to spend 1 hour for planning than to spend this hour for just ticking the box. When you think strategically, every day I spend time on deciding what are the most important things that I should do today. I just skip the rest.
Yeah, that. I need to learn that. Thank you. Corrado, I think you said you have another question there.
Yes, that's true. So first off, thank you, Tatiana, for the for all of the input. And one more question that I was received was, what was it like being a woman in the industry? I understand that there's a, and this is coming directly from the question. It says, I understand that there is some stigma that can go against women in the industry. Did you ever face this type of stigma, and what recommendations do you have for young women trying to become professionals in this industry?
Yeah, for sure. I faced it a lot, especially when I just started in my 30. I looked like 20-year-old
Mm.
blondie. Yeah, so when I was going to the meetings and to the conferences, I always felt this skepticism, like, what can she tell us?
Mm.
Yeah. So and there were in negotiations, for example, when we had some when we were discussing prices of the contracts. Yeah, that was pretty tough sometimes. It was felt when I was participating in the disputes. In many events, expert talks, you have rather tough discussions. So you have to be prepared to being attacked, basically, especially in the post-Soviet space where the very framing of discussion is much more aggressive normally. So I think the only recipe I have is just to keep doing and to grow the confidence by, I mean, if I've done all the modeling, if I've checked all the numbers, if I'm pretty sure that the results are correct, nobody can uh, convince me that I'm wrong.
Mm.
Yeah. So just doing your job well and being ready to communicate it and to stand on your own. If you believe that what you are doing is the right thing, that nobody can change your mind. So basically, this trolling, yeah, of young women, it is touching our weakness because deep in our heart we also believe that we are not good enough, we are not ready enough. Yeah, so it's the primary task is to work with our own perception. I'm enough, I know enough, I'm a good specialist. Yeah,
Mm.
I can make a mistake. Yeah, it doesn't mean that I'm like sent. No, I can make a mistake, and let's discuss it. If you see something is wrong, yeah, let's focus on it. But I'm myself, I'm enough. Just tell yourself this message every day in the morning in front of your mirror. It takes 1 month before you will really believe that you are enough.
Very good. Just a quick follow on to that. Do you see that the position of women in industry has become easier over time, and also with geographies, because you talk about experience in Russia, do you find it's easier in the US or the UK or elsewhere in Europe?
I would say it is becoming slightly better. So during the last 2 decades, yeah, probably, um, there is still a gap, definitely.
Mhm.
And there is still a difference on the way how people treat you, how they listen to you. Yeah, you can feel it. But at the same time, Europe, US are probably more friendly.
Mm.
Uh, in post-Soviet space, in the Middle East, in Southeast
Mhm.
Asia, in Africa, in Latin America, you will feel more skepticism. But when you feel this skepticism, when you feel offended
Mm.
and like humiliated, you get some aggression inside. At least I
Mm.
do.
Mm.
Yeah.
Right.
And what I was always trying to do is to switch this aggression from self-destruction into the brighter speech or brighter communication, just mirroring this aggression outside, but not in a destructive way, rather in a more convincing way. And yeah, normally it works. Sometimes I would admit there were sometimes really very nasty situations. I faced harassment several times in different geographies. So yeah, we ladies, we have to be prepared to react properly and not to blame ourselves for this. Yeah, because there is a sort of victim syndrome. Oh, I've probably provoked them. No, we do not provoke.
Very good. No, that's excellent. There are a few more questions in the chat. I'm sorry we've not had time to get to those, but our time has run out. But all I can say is thank you, Dr. Mitrova, Tatiana, for such a wonderful presentation and for sharing so many very personal things, which are very relevant to everything we do, career-wise and personal life too. So really appreciate your willingness to share and the time that you've given us.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the great questions, and good luck with your careers. I believe that they will be amazing.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I think there are just a few slides, just reminders of some of the announcements. If we can have the next slide, please. So just putting this in the chat while the slides are updated here. Just a reminder that we have the Hydrogen Symposium coming up on April 17th, and we're still looking for some volunteers to help with that. So the link is in the chat. Looks like we may not get the slides back, but anyway. And also for the Energy Coalition Banquet on April 24th. Again, I've put the link again in the chat if anyone has not yet registered for that. So thank you, everyone. And again, this is our final session. I think a great way to end our Energy Careers and Leadership program. So final thanks to Dr. Mitrova and also for all of the other instructors that we've had on the series. I think it's been a great journey. And thank you to those of you who have joined us. I hope you have all learned useful things along the way. We've certainly had a lot of great information and great experiences that have been shared in the program. So again, thanks everyone, and hope to see you all around on the campus and online and however going ahead in the future. So I guess with that, we will wrap up today's session. And thanks everyone for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you from the Energy Coalition as well to all of our students who came join us. Alan, thank you for helping spearhead this, and Tatiana, and astounding thanks to you from the bottom of all of our hearts for giving us such a lively presentation.
Okay, thanks everyone. I'll shut down the recording and then we'll close the meeting.